What's going on, y'all? Thanks for watching the video today. This is my second part of my early season NBA awards. In another video, which I'm going to leave the link for in the description, I looked at who should win the major awards like the MVP, the Rookie of the Year. But here I want to go through the All-NBA teams, the All-NBA team, the All-Defensive team, the All-Rookie team, who deserves those selections early on in the season. So going in to my All-NBA teams for the first team, as I mentioned in my other video, Stephen Curry, I think, is the clear-cut MVP candidate right now, and that also lands him a clear spot on first-team All-NBA. What he's doing for that Golden State team, as good as they've been without Klay Thompson, with only a lot of role players, and Jordan Poole's been really good. Draymond Green's been, of course, very good, but it's mostly Steph doing all the offense on that team, and he certainly deserves a spot in the first-team All-NBA. Now, the other guard for my first-team All-NBA, I've got Luca Doncage of the Mavericks. Dallas once again fighting for home court advantage in the Western Conference playoffs. They got a new head coach in Jason Kidd, which a lot of people were skeptical of. Their roster remains relatively shaky. It's not a bad roster per se, but there's no second true star on this team. Although Kristaps Porzingis is having a solid season this year, a lot better than his first 2 years in Dallas. He's still not that huge second superstar we'd want on a contender. So it's really Luka doing all the creating, all the scoring for this team. And he's got them at a winning record right now, and he certainly deserves that first team All NBA spot in my opinion. When you look at the forwards, I think Kevin Durant is having possibly not. He's not my MVP, but he's might be having the best scoring season in the NBA right now when it comes to like efficiency, because a lot of guys have been struggling to shoot the ball with the new foul rule changes. Some people have been saying the change of the ball has also affected some people. You look at someone like Damian Lillard, the ugly season he's had thus far. Durant, he shrugs that off every day. He's got the Nets winning ball games every night. He's shooting as efficient as ever. He's a 30-point scorer right now. I think he's second in the league in scoring behind Steph Curry. He might even be ahead of Curry at this point after Curry's ugly showing against the Suns last week. So Durant, I think, is the clear best forward in the NBA right now. At least it's close between him and the other first-team forward I've got here, Giannis Antetokounmpo. But he's the best scoring forward for sure. He's my first-team forward, along with Giannis, who reigning Finals MVP, reigning champion. The Bucks have had a lot of injuries. Brook Lopez is now out. Chris Middleton was out with COVID. Dante DiVincenzo still not returned from his injury that he suffered last year. And yet Giannis, he continues to be the dominating two-way threat we've become accustomed to seeing for the Bucks. He controls the paint. He's a bit better as a foul shooter, as he started to hint at last year in the playoffs as well. So I think he's the clear other first-team forward here. And finally, Nicole Jokage of the Nuggets. A lot of injuries for that Nuggets team. Michael Porter now joins Jamal Murray on the sideline. And, they don't have a lot of help for Jokic, but he's keeping them afloat. They're not in the playoffs right now, and they might not make the playoffs, but they're still fighting. They're still on the outskirts of that play-in game. And, Jokic, I think he gets the first-team center easily here due to Joel Embiid's COVID-related absence. Right now, Jokic has just played a lot more games, and, he's the best passing center in the NBA, maybe of all time, although I'm sure certain people would contest that, but he certainly has that distinction of being one of the best passing big men of all time. He's certainly a great scorer, last year's regular season MVP, and he's the first-team center for me right now. Now going to the second team, I think Trey Young and Devin Booker are the second-team guards here. Phoenix has been almost as good as Golden State. Now, Booker missed last night's Golden State-Phoenix game, and Golden State won pretty handily, as you would expect if Booker's out of the lineup. He's having, I think, the best three-point percentage of his career this year. I think he's over 40. He's got the Suns. They had a really long win streak the other night. Him and Chris Paul continue to develop as a really dynamic duo. And as for Trey Young, the Hawks have some injuries of their own. DeAndre Hunter, Bogdan Bogdanovic, they've been out of the lineup. But Trey Young continues to emerge as a lethal scorer in the NBA, improve as a leader, as a passer as well. And, the Hawks, not necessarily a playoff shoo-in right now, but they're certainly remaining competitive. They lost a close one to the Sixers last night. Now, my second-team forwards, I've got Paul George of the Clippers, who, he was starting to kind of reemerge into being a best guy, being able to be capable of being the best guy on a playoff team last year in the playoffs. Without Kawhi, he was really showing a lot, kind of bouncing back from that pandemic P nonsense from the bubble. He's been really solid as a two-way forward for the Clippers this year, keeping them in the playoff hunt without Kawhi. And I got to give the last two second-team All-NBA spots, forward and center, to LeBron James and Joel Embiid. They've both missed a lot of time early in this season due to COVID and injury-related absences, but With LeBron, when he's in that lineup for the Lakers, as ugly as that team is, and they are ugly. They are one of the poorest constructed teams I've seen in some time that actually thought they had a finals ambition coming into the year. I don't think that's happening this year if things continue the way they have. But nonetheless, I think LeBron James will get this team into the playoffs. I don't think Laker fans need to worry about missing out in the postseason entirely. LeBron's not going to let this team miss the playoffs. He's still a top three forward in the NBA right now. And, he's LeBron James. Do we really need to talk about him? Career low rebounds, I believe, this year for him. But nonetheless, he's been very good. And Embiid, we see what happens when he's in the lineup for the Sixers. They win games. When he's out, they don't win games. That's how it is. He gets to the line. He's one of the best big men at doing that, maybe of all time. Dominating low post threat. He's improved as a three-point shooter the last 2 seasons. Imposing defender. We know all about Joel Embiid. The process himself will have the Sixers in the playoffs this year. We don't need to worry about our early season record. We'll get back on track. He missed over 2 weeks due to that COVID scare. And then moving on to my third team, I've got Ja Morant of the Memphis Grizzlies as one of the guards, as well as James Harden of the Nets. Now, Harden, not having the scoring season we've become accustomed to seeing from him, but with that being said, he's still very important to this very good Nets team. He's still a very important creator. He runs the offense pretty much through him. Yes, his percentages are down. His scoring is down, only around 21 a game. But if he was not on that Nets team, they'd be a whole lot worse, especially without the anti-vaxxer himself, Kyrie Irving, on the team. So Brooklyn needs him, and I think he's proven that he's still one of the best guards in the NBA, even if his play styles had to change a little bit this year. And then Ja, probably one of the most exciting players the NBA has to offer, maybe the most dynamic guard from an athletic standpoint since prime Derrick Rose, all the way back in those Chicago days. He's putting up 24 points, hovering around 7 or 8 assists a game. Memphis, as I mentioned in the other video, I don't think he's the most improved player because he was already so good last year, but he's got Memphis competing for a playoff spot. Memphis just smoked the Thunder, even without Ja, by 73 points. But when Ja's in that lineup, he's what makes that team go, and I think he deserves to be the third team guard. Now, there's plenty of guys you could also consider here. Chris Paul is the league leader in assists. Zach LaVine's scoring a ton again for a really good Bulls team. Bradley Beal, although his percentages are a bit down, the Wizards have been really good. He deserves some look. And even LaMelo Ball and Anthony Edwards in their second years in the league have been phenomenal. But those are my guards. I'm going to settle with Ja and James Harden for now. Now going to the forwards here, Jimmy Butler and DeMar DeRozan I've got here. Jimmy, since coming to the Heat, he's transformed his game in a really impressive way. Starting in that finals run in the bubble, but really even last year and this year, as a creator, he's just one of the best to do it at the forward position right now. He's finally settled into, I think we know his position is forward. For a while there, it was like, is Jimmy Butler a guard? He's a forward. He is a full-fledged forward on this team in my eyes. One of the best two-way players in the entire game, and he's better than Ben Simmons as well. And moving on to DeRozan here, probably maybe he's having his best season of his career right now on this really good Chicago Bulls team. When he was traded to the Spurs from the Raptors in that Kawhi Leonard trade, he kind of fell off the mainstream radar for a bit there. But while he was under the tutelage of Greg Popovich, he improved his game a lot. He got a bit better as a three-point shooter. You still don't want him taking a ton of those, but he doesn't anyway. He's more of a mid-range scorer. But more importantly, he learned how to not only be a really effective creator at the forward spot, but also learned how to guard forwards, especially last year. He was playing some 4 in crunch time for the Spurs once LaMarcus Aldridge was off the team, and he's been continued to do that with the Bulls this year now that they lost Patrick Williams for the year. He's one of the best crunch time players in the entire NBA this year. He's pulled off plenty of game-saving shots for the Bulls. Him and Zach LaVine, hard to say who's the best player on that team, but both of them are very important to a really impressive and surprising Bulls team, and I think DeRozan deserves this. And finally, for my third team All-NBA center, Jazz fans wouldn't like my answer here. It's not Rudy Gobert. He can make all the all-defensive teams. He is not one of the 3 best centers in the league. Karl Anthony Towns has gone long enough without making this All-NBA team. And, I'm not saying that he should have made it prior years. He's either hurt or the Timberwolves were just atrocious. But this year, the Wolves, they're finally starting to come together as a young, developing team. And Towns is kind of the elder statesman on this team. He's been in the league about 7 years now, and he's proven himself to be one of the best scoring centers the league has to offer. He's probably the greatest three-point shooting big man of all time already. He can hit it. He's a lights out shooter from out there, 40% shooting the last few years. He's still a very good low post player as well. You still want him to get better on defense, but I think now he has Anthony Edwards on this team, who's just they play off each other really well. Now the rest of the team needs some work, I think. Malik Beasley's been disappointing. D'Angelo Russell kind of gets in the way of Anthony Edwards in crunch time. He's sometimes trying to take the shots for himself. But nonetheless, I think Towns has been a big part of putting the Wolves back on the map as a potential play-in team, playoff team this year at the end of the playoffs. And he deserves it, man. He's probably always been one of the best centers in the NBA, but he's finally has the situation to be recognized for it. Now, going on to my all-defensive teams here. For my first team, I think DeJounte Murray, who I was talking about in the last video as my most improved player of the year thus far, I think he deserves it. He's been one of the premier defensive guards in the NBA for a few years now. And even though the Spurs continue not to be quite a great team this year, I think he's not the reason whatsoever. He's hovering around 2 steals a game. And then the NBA steals leader, Alex Caruso of the Chicago Bulls. Now that he's not being forced down our throats by a Bleacher Report while he was on the Lakers, it's kind of easy to appreciate him, what he's doing for this Bulls team off the bench this year. He's actually, I should have mentioned him as a 6th Man of the Year candidate in my last video because he does technically come off the bench, but he plays crunch time for this Bulls team. He is a lethal defender, and for a guy who, frankly, wasn't well known coming out of college by most scouts, most fans, he has transformed himself into one of the premier defenders in the NBA, and it's really impressive to see. My forwards, I've got Draymond Green, who I notched as my defensive player of the year right now. The Warriors' defense has been almost as good as their offense this year, and it's because Draymond is back into a top-tier defensive form. He's been a good defender his whole career, but the last few years, maybe not the elite guy he was on those middle 2010s Warriors teams, but he's back to that level this year in my eyes. Giannis Antetokounmpo also, I think he's always got to be a shoo-in for the all-defensive team. He is a lethal, long, athletic defender, and we know how dominant he can be, as we saw in his playoff run last year. And finally, I'll concede, the Jazz have been very good this year. Rudy Gobert putting up, I believe, 14 rebounds a game. That's a career high for him. He's still one of the most dominant, imposing, low-post defenders in the NBA. Now, when the playoffs come around, that's not that important because people can pull him out of the paint if they have a center like if Minnesota and Utah match up, maybe in a 2-7 matchup in the first round, if it goes that way, or a 3-6, Karl Anthony Towns is going to give Nicole Jokage as well with Denver. They're going to give Rudy Gobert a ton of problems. But for now, I will give Rudy Gobert all the credit in the world. He is one of the best defensive centers in the NBA, probably the best when it comes to blocking shots. Now, for my second team, I was surprised that Marcus Smart was deserving of this honor, but when I did the research, I think he is one of the second-team guards right now. Boston's defense has gotten a little bit better as the season's progressed. Marcus Smart is hovering around 2 steals a game. He is one of the only Celtics, I would say, having a good season, along with Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. That team is kind of strange. I'm not really sure where they're going. They beat the Sixers in an ugly one the other week, but I think he deserves this slot right now. Jrue Holiday, not my other guard. I don't know why I already said Jrue Holiday. Chris Paul is my other all-defensive guard. The Suns' defense has been very strong, as I'm going to get to more in depth with another player in a second here. But Chris Paul, he's always been a very good defender for his size at the point guard position, always in the steals leaders every year in, year out. Maybe if he keeps playing, he might be able to break John Stockton's all-time steals record if he plays another 4 or 5 seasons here. We'll see. But as for this season, the Suns, they're winning a ton, as we saw by their long win streak, and I think he's a candidate. Jrue Holiday, certainly a candidate I was about to get into to get back on this team. He's been in and out of the lineup for the Bucks, and with some injuries, as have most people on that team been, but he might be the premier defensive guard in this league, so I anticipate him getting back in the race. Now my forwards here, shout out to Jimmy Butler, who I left off this team. I put him on my All-NBA third team, not able to crack the all-defensive team for me here. My forwards, I've got Mikhail Bridges of the Phoenix Suns, who some people are even saying could be the defensive player of the year. I'm not ready to go there with him yet, but he is clearly the defensive anchor for that Phoenix Suns team that I was mentioning. He held Steph Curry in check in that game in a big way, and that was kind of his, announcement to the national the national fandom, including myself. I'm not going to pretend I was, watching every Mikhail Bridges game. I knew he's a good defender, but I didn't know he's having that dominant of a season until I saw him lock Curry up that game. But after that, people have been talking about him for Defensive Player of the Year. I still think Draymond's got it, but he is the anchor of that Suns defense, and I think he deserves a all-defensive slot here on the second team. And, of course, maybe the best defensive forward in the NBA if he just got the damn minutes, Doc Rivers. Matisse Thybulle is averaging 2.1 steals in 25 minutes a game. He's around 1.5 blocks as well. He continues to be a dominant defensive player in short minutes. He is averaging career-high minutes this year. I'll give Doc a little credit there. I thought he was going to become the starter over Danny Green when he got 2 starts straight over Danny, and Danny came off the bench. But then Danny regained the starting spot. I would love to see Thybulle play more minutes. I think he could be a first-team all-defense defender if he got the minutes to do so. He is a destructive player when he is out there on the court. As we continue to see, I think he's still a second-team all-defensive player right now. As for another 76ers player, Joel Embiid, I can't give it to yet. I think he needs to improve a little bit and also get healthy and play some more games. Maybe when I do my awards for after the month of December, he'll get this spot. But right now, I got to give it to Miles Turner, who's one of the lone bright spots on this Indiana team this year. They've lost a lot of close games, but Miles Turner may be up there with Rudy Gobert as the best shot blocker in the NBA. He's a little more versatile as a defensive player than Gobert is. And I would love to see him on a better team. He might be traded from Indiana, or maybe Sabonis will. There's starting to be some rumors that fit between those two bigs is starting to wear thin in Indiana, and they might move one of them. I'm hoping it's Turner because he could really help some teams with his defense. Now, quickly, I know this video is running a bit long. I've got a lot of guys to cover. My all-rookie team. My first team right now, Evan Mobley, my rookie of the year right now. He's the first guy I looked at. Scotty Barnes, also having a really terrific season for the Raptors, about 17 points a game if I'm correct. He might be down at this point a little bit, but earlier in the year he was putting up 17 and 8 rebounds a game. Franz Wagner's been a terrific two-way player for a really bad Magic team. He looks like someone who could have a really long NBA career. Chris Duarte, the oldest rookie in the NBA at 24 years old. He's another bright spot for the Pacers, putting up around 13 points a game. In and out as a starter or a bench player, depending on who's playing for that India team, what the matchup is. He's been really nice to see thriving in the league. And then Alperen Sengun, the Rockets rookie center. He can do it all. He's a terrific low post scorer, but he can also hit some threes as well. He's shooting 40% from three. That Rockets team is starting to get going. He's thrived off the bench in it around 20 minutes a game, putting up around 8 points and 5 rebounds. He has been just a really interesting player. It's going to be interesting to see how he develops over time. Another guy, now I switch over to my second team all-rookie. Another guy would be interesting to see how he develops. The Western Conference Rookie of the Month, Josh Giddy of the Thunder. That guy, man, he's a little shaky as a shooter, as most people on the Thunder are this year, but he knows how to pass. He knows how to rebound. He can defend a little bit. The Australian sensation, it'll be interesting to see if he's a part of the Thunder's long-term future, if they wind up trading him for picks as well. We'll see. Another Thunder player who just had a minus 53, I believe, in that Thunder Grizzlies game, the Villanova product, the second-round pick, Jeremiah Robinson Earl. He's actually been possibly the best big on this Thunder team this year, proven to be a very effective low-post scorer for this team. So I love my Villanova players. I got to give him a shout-out here. I'll give Cade Cunningham and Jalen Green, the top 2 picks in this year's draft, some love here. They're having really inefficient seasons, both in the low 30s of shooting percentage. I think both of them are even under 30% shooting, but, the dynamic athletic ability Jalen Green has displayed on Houston, he's been able to score big in some games. And Cade Cunningham, I guess that Detroit offense still is running through him. I was hesitant to put them on these teams, but I think it's kind of, first of all, when you look at the rest of the rookies, there's not a lot of other options for this second-team all-rookie team right now. And also, they just have the God-given talent. I'm assuming as the season progresses, they'll get a bit better. Houston's starting to pick up some wins, although I think Jalen Green's out right now, actually. But nonetheless, I think their scoring alone in the double digits gets them on this team. And then finally, Herbert Jones, the Alabama product of the New Orleans Pelicans. He's played some center for them. Very good defensive player coming out of Alabama. He was a second-round pick. helped them out in March Madness last year, along with former Villanova guard Javon Quinterly. But nonetheless, Pelicans have been a disaster without Zion this year. But Herb Jones, he's been at least productive. He can guard people. Not many other people on the Pelicans can say that. So he's my final all-rookie second-team selection. So that's going to do it for my all-rookie teams, my all-NBA teams. Thank you all for watching the video today. Make sure to subscribe to the channel if you aren't already. Thanks for lasting through. If you somehow got through all 20 minutes of me talking about these players, thank you so much. Stay tuned for more videos and have a good rest of your weekend.